Growing up in the Wilson family meant one thing: money was everything. Your worth wasn't measured by your character or achievements, but by the number of zeros in your bank account. I learned this lesson early, watching my older brother Marcus parade around in designer suits while I worked part-time jobs through college. Even in elementary school, the difference was stark. Marcus got the latest gaming consoles, brand new bikes, and lavish birthday parties with hired entertainers. My birthdays were afterthoughts, usually celebrated with a grocery store cake, if they remembered at all. "We're teaching Michael the value of money," my mother would tell relatives, but what she really meant was that I wasn't worth the investment. Our parents never hid their preferences. Marcus was the golden child, the Harvard business graduate who landed a cushy executive position right out of college. Meanwhile, I was the disappointment who chose to start from the bottom, learning real estate from the ground up. I still remember my high school graduation. While Marcus had gotten a brand new BMW for his, I received a firm handshake and a lecture about fiscal responsibility. "Michael's just not ambitious enough," my mother would sigh at family gatherings, as if I wasn't sitting right there. "He insists on doing everything the hard way." The hard way meant refusing their connections, their money, their influence. I wanted to build something on my own terms, even if it meant starting with nothing. I took a job as a maintenance worker at an apartment complex, learning the ins and outs of property management while taking night classes in real estate and finance. My family saw it as beneath them. At Sunday dinners, Marcus would regale everyone with stories about his latest business deals, while I sat quietly, absorbing everything I could about market trends and investment strategies. "Look at your brother," Dad would say, pointing his fork at Marcus. "That's what success looks like." What they didn't know was that I was building something too. Every paycheck, every bonus, every penny I could spare went into my education and my first small investments. I started with a rundown duplex in a developing neighborhood. While Marcus bought designer watches, I bought power tools and learned to renovate properties myself. For years, I worked in silence. While Marcus climbed the corporate ladder at prestigious firms, I studied market trends, analyzed property values, and slowly built my portfolio. No one in my family knew about the properties I was acquiring through my company, Horizon Investments. They were too busy celebrating Marcus's latest bonus or promotion to notice. The contrast in our lifestyles couldn't have been more dramatic. Marcus lived in a luxury high-rise apartment, drove an imported sports car, and wore suits that cost more than my first property down payment. I lived modestly in one of my renovated units, drove my reliable Toyota, and reinvested every dollar I could into growing my business. Then came the financial crisis of 2023. The real estate market buckled, and suddenly, those prestigious firms weren't so stable anymore. Marcus's investments started crumbling, but his lifestyle didn't change. Designer suits, luxury cars, exclusive clubs, he kept spending like the money would never run out. I saw the signs early. Working in real estate from the ground up had taught me to recognize market patterns. I tried to warn my family about the impending crash, but Marcus laughed it off. "What would you know about high finance?" he scoffed. "You're just a small-time landlord." My parents weren't any better. Their retirement fund was tied up in high-risk investments that Marcus had recommended. When those investments tanked, they started borrowing against their house, the same house where I'd grown up. The same house they refused to let me help protect when I'd warned them about the market's instability. I watched silently as they mortgaged their future, too proud to admit they needed help. Every family dinner became a performance, with everyone pretending everything was fine while the bills piled up. Marcus still showed up in expensive cars, but I noticed they changed more frequently, leases rather than purchases now. Meanwhile, Horizon Investments was thriving. I had positioned my portfolio conservatively, focusing on stable, long-term investments rather than quick profits. When the market crashed, I was ready. While others were selling in panic, I was buying, expanding my holdings at discount prices. Sarah, my chief operations officer, had been with me since the beginning. She started as my property manager when I had just 3 units. Now she helped me manage a portfolio worth billions, though my family still thought she was just my assistant. "Your family still doesn't know, do they?" she asked one day, reviewing our latest acquisition reports. "They never asked," I replied simply, and they hadn't. Not once in 10 years had anyone in my family shown genuine interest in my business. They were too busy maintaining appearances, pretending their world wasn't crumbling around them. Tonight's dinner was different. I knew something they didn't. I had just acquired their mortgage through one of my subsidiary companies. The paperwork had been finalized that afternoon, but they were about to mock me one last time. Michael. Marcus's voice boomed across our parents' dining room. He was wearing a new suit, probably another expense he couldn't afford. Still driving that old Toyota. Some things never change, huh? I took my usual seat at the far end of the table, where the less successful family members were relegated. My mother busied herself with the table settings, barely acknowledging my presence. The dining room still looked impressive, but I noticed the small signs of decline. Worn carpet, faded wallpaper, tiny repairs left undone. How's that little real estate venture of yours? Marcus continued, swirling his expensive wine. I recognized the bottle. A $500 vintage that he probably charged to a nearly maxed out credit card. Still living paycheck to paycheck. Our father chuckled, pride evident in his eyes as he looked at Marcus. Not everyone can be a financial genius, son. Some people just aren't cut out for success. I checked my watch. 7:30 p.m. Right on schedule. Actually, I said quietly, business is going quite well. Marcus snorted. Well? What's your definition of well? Finally saved up enough for a down payment on a condo. The doorbell rang. My mother frowned, her carefully maintained facade cracking slightly. Who could that be at this hour? That would be my assistant, I said, standing up. Shall I get the door? Before anyone could respond, I walked to the front door and opened it. Sarah stood there in a crisp business suit, holding a leather portfolio. She had been with me through every step of building Horizon Investments, from our first small acquisition to our latest billion-dollar deal. Right on time, I smiled, leading her to the dining room. The confusion on my family's faces was palpable. Marcus's fork stopped halfway to his mouth, the expensive wine forgotten. Mr. Wilson, Sarah said professionally, here's the deed to your family's house. You own it all now. The transfer was completed this afternoon. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's wine glass slipped from her fingers, spilling red across the white tablecloth. Marcus's face had lost all color, his carefully maintained mask of success cracking. What is this? My father demanded, his voice shaking. What's going on? I took the portfolio from Sarah and opened it slowly. Remember when I said I was doing well? Horizon Investments, my little real estate venture, now owns over $2 billion in properties across the state, including this house. Marcus jumped to his feet, his chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. You're lying. There's no way. Sarah stood quietly by the door, watching the scene unfold. She had seen this coming for years, watching as I built my company while my family remained blind to my success. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, her expensive makeup smearing. Michael, honey, if you needed to prove something to us, there were better ways. We're family. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Prove something. Mom, I bought this house to save it. Your mortgage is 3 months behind. The bank was about to foreclose. Did Marcus tell you that when he was bragging about his latest deal? The color drained from my father's face. That's impossible. Marcus assured us his investment strategy would. Would what? I cut in. Cover the massive debt you've accumulated? Pay for the lifestyle you couldn't afford? Marcus has been lying to you for months. Show them, Sarah. Sarah opened her tablet, projecting financial statements onto the dining room wall. Past due notices, foreclosure warnings, and bank records filled the screen. Marcus slammed his fist on the table, making the silverware jump. Shut up. You don't know anything about business. You're just jealous because... Because what? I stood up slowly, meeting his eyes. Because I built something real while you play pretend executive with other people's money? Your firm is investigating you for fraud, Marcus. Did you tell Mom and Dad about that? The silence that followed was absolute. My mother's quiet sobs were the only sound in the room. How did you? Marcus whispered, his arrogance finally cracking. I own the building your firm leases, I said quietly. I know everything. The unauthorized trades, the forged documents, the missing client funds. It's all coming out next week. My father grabbed Marcus's arm, his knuckles white. Is this true? Tell me he's lying. But Marcus couldn't speak. He just stood there, swaying slightly, his perfect world crumbling around him. Mr. Wilson. Sarah stepped forward, opening another file on her tablet. Would you like me to show them the full extent of Horizon's holdings? The properties, the investments, the acquisitions? I nodded, and Sarah began displaying more images. High-rise buildings in downtown, sprawling commercial complexes, luxury residential developments, all bearing the subtle Horizon logo. Properties worth billions, built from the ground up while my family was too busy mocking my little venture. This is what I've built over the past 10 years, I said, watching their faces as reality sank in. While you were laughing at my Toyota and my modest clothes, I was creating something sustainable, something real. My mother reached across the table, trying to take my hand. Her diamond bracelet, a gift from Marcus last Christmas, sparkled in the light. Sweetheart, we had no idea. Why didn't you tell us? I pulled my hand away gently. Would you have believed me? Or would you have dismissed it like everything else I've ever done? But we're family, she pleaded. Surely that means something. Family? I stood up, straightening my jacket. Was I family when you excluded me from holiday photos because my clothes weren't expensive enough? Was I family when you skipped my college graduation because Marcus had a golf tournament? My father's voice was barely a whisper. Son, we were wrong. We see that now. Now? I laughed bitterly. Now that you know I am the roof over your head? Now that you realize your golden child is about to be indicted for fraud? That's not family, Dad. That's survival. Sarah cleared her throat softly. Sir, we have the other meeting in 20 minutes. I nodded, picking up my keys. The same keys they had mocked me for, attached to a simple keychain rather than a designer fob. The house is yours to stay in, for now. I'm not cruel enough to evict my own parents, but things are going to change. Marcus, who had been silent for several minutes, suddenly lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You can't do this to me. I'm your brother. You have to help me. No, Marcus, I said calmly, stepping away from his grasp. You're the man who spent years making sure I felt worthless. Actions have consequences. Let's see how you handle starting from nothing, really nothing. Not the kind of nothing where Dad still pays your credit card bills. As I turned to leave, my mother's voice stopped me. Michael, please, what happens now? I paused at the doorway, looking back at the dining room table where so many dinners had been spent feeling invisible. Now you get to experience what I did. Starting from nothing, building something real. Maybe then you'll understand the value of hard work over appearance. Sarah followed me out, closing the door behind us. In my car, I finally let out a shaky breath, the weight of years of dismissal and mockery lifting from my shoulders. Are you all right? Sarah asked quietly. I started the engine, watching the lights go on in my parents' house. My house now. I will be. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting people. It's about showing them exactly who you've become while they weren't paying attention. The next few weeks were a blur of headlines and family drama. Marcus's fraud was exposed, leading to his arrest and the collapse of his carefully constructed facade. The luxury cars disappeared, replaced by court appearances and lawyer meetings. His designer suits gave way to prison orange. My parents, faced with the truth about their golden child, retreated into a shell of denial and regret. The country club membership lapsed, the social circle evaporated, and reality finally set in. They had invested everything, money, pride, love, in the wrong son. I maintained my distance, focusing on expanding Horizon investments. Our latest project, a sustainable housing development, was gaining national attention. Success, real success, wasn't about proving others wrong. It was about proving yourself right. The local business journal ran a feature on me, The Silent Titan, how Michael Wilson built a real estate empire. The photo showed me in front of my old Toyota, now parked beside my office building as a reminder of where I started. My mother tried to send me designer suits after seeing it. I donated them to a charity helping job seekers. 3 months after that fateful dinner, I received a letter from my mother. Inside was a photo I'd never seen before. Me at my college graduation, standing alone in my cap and gown. They had taken it from afar, too busy with Marcus's tournament to attend properly. We were wrong, the note read. Not just about your success, but about everything. The son we dismissed turned out to be the one who saved us all. The one who built something real while we chased appearances. I placed the photo in my desk drawer, next to the first dollar I'd earned in real estate. It wasn't about forgiveness. Some wounds run too deep for that. It was about recognition, about finally being seen for who I was, not who they wanted me to be. Today, Horizon Investments is valued at over $5 billion. My parents still live in their house, now attending every company event, proudly telling anyone who'll listen about their successful son in real estate. They've learned to appreciate the Toyota in the driveway and the value of honest work. Marcus serves his time, writing letters about redemption and second chances. I read them sometimes between signing deals and planning new developments. His latest note mentioned how he finally understands what real success looks like, not the facade he built, but the solid foundation I created. And me? I keep building not for revenge or recognition, but because it's what I love. The kid they called poor now owns half the city, but more importantly, I own my story. Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. The family dinners continue, but they're different now. No more mockery, no more dismissal. Just quiet respect and the lingering taste of karma served at exactly the right temperature. Sometimes my mother tries to apologize for the past, but I stop her. The past made me who I am, someone who understands that true worth isn't measured in designer labels or luxury cars. Sometimes when I pass by my old Toyota, which I keep parked in front of my office building, I smile, remembering Marcus's sneers. It's not about the car you drive or the clothes you wear. It's about building something that lasts, something real. And that's worth more than all the designer suits in the world. The leather chair in my father's office still smelled new as I sat across from his massive mahogany desk, watching him sign away my future. Each scratch of his pen felt like a knife in my chest. "It's decided then," he said, not even looking up. "Maxwell will take over as CEO of Porter Technologies effective immediately." I gripped the armrests, my knuckles white. "Dad, I've been running the AI division for 3 years. Our profits have tripled. The team, enough, Diana." He finally met my eyes, his expression stern. "Max is the man of the house now. The company needs strong leadership, not," he gestured vaguely at me, "at my MIT degrees hanging on his wall. At the industry awards I brought to the company. Whatever this is." My brother Max lounged in the corner, his Italian loafers propped up on a $5,000 coffee table. "Don't worry, sis, you can keep playing with your little robots. Just stay out of the real business decisions." Playing. That's what they called my work in artificial intelligence development. Never mind that my little robots had revolutionized the company's manufacturing process, saving millions in operational costs. "The board meeting is in an hour," my father continued. "I'll announce the succession then." He shuffled some papers, a clear dismissal. "That's all." I stood up slowly, my legs shaking. 20 years, I said quietly. "What?" "I've given 20 years to this company. Started in the warehouse during high school, worked every summer through college, earned 2 degrees in engineering while Max was partying his way through business school." My voice grew stronger. "I built the AI division from scratch while he was crashing sports cars and dating supermodels." Max laughed. "And look where all that got you. Still trying to prove yourself? Face it, Diana, tech is a man's world." Our father sighed. "Diana, you're emotionally compromised." "This is exactly why." "Why what?" I challenged. "Why you're giving a $40 million company to someone who doesn't know the difference between machine learning and a microwave." "That's enough." My father slammed his hand on the desk. "Maxwell understands business. He understands leadership, and he understands his place in this family." His eyes narrowed. "Unlike you." I looked around the office, at the photos of 3 generations of Porter men, at the empty space where my achievements should have been displayed, at the future I'd worked so hard for slipping away. "You're right," I said finally. "I don't understand my place in this family, because apparently 20 years of dedication means nothing compared to being born with the right chromosomes." I walked to the door, then turned back. "Just remember this moment, Dad. Remember it when you realize what you've thrown away." Max's mocking laughter followed me down the hallway. I kept my head high as I passed familiar faces, engineers I'd hired, developers who'd helped build my division, administrative staff who'd supported my projects. They all knew what was coming. In my office, soon to be Max's office, no doubt, I began packing my personal belongings. My hands lingered on a framed photo from 3 years ago, me and my team celebrating the successful launch of our first AI-powered manufacturing system. We were all smiling, proud, unaware that innovation meant nothing compared to tradition. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Dr. James Chen, my lead researcher, stood in the doorway. "We heard," he said simply. "The whole tech division is in shock." I managed a weak smile. Well, apparently building groundbreaking AI systems isn't as important as being the man of the house. James stepped inside, closing the door. "You know, most of us came here because of you, right? Your vision for ethical AI development, your leadership style." He hesitated. "The team's been talking. If you leave..." "Don't," I cut him off. "Don't risk your careers for me." "But, trust me, James, I have a plan." And I did. It had been forming in my mind ever since I first heard rumors about Max's succession. I'd seen this coming, maybe not the blatant sexism, but the inevitability of being passed over despite my contributions. That's why I'd spent the last year secretly developing something revolutionary, something that would make Porter Technologies' current AI systems look primitive by comparison. My phone buzzed, a message from Dr. Sarah Martinez, my former PhD advisor at MIT. "Got your email. The lab space is yours whenever you're ready. And that grant we discussed. Approved." I smiled, slipping the phone back into my pocket. While my father and brother had been focused on maintaining their boys' club, I'd been building connections, securing patents, and laying the groundwork for what would become their worst nightmare. Another knock, this time Caitlin from HR, looking uncomfortable. "Ms. Porter, your brother sent me to discuss your transition package." Of course he did. Max never could handle difficult conversations himself. "No need," I said, picking up my box of belongings. "I quit." Caitlin blinked. "But, your contract, the non-compete clause." I pulled out a document I'd been saving for this moment. Check section 7.3. The non-compete only applies to employees terminated by the company. I'm resigning voluntarily. I smiled. My lawyer made sure that distinction was very clear when we negotiated my last contract. As I walked through the Porter Technologies lobby one last time, employees stopped to stare. Some looked sympathetic, others curious. Most knew me as the quiet, brilliant Porter daughter who'd revolutionized the company's technology division. They'd soon know me as something else entirely. Outside, the autumn air felt crisp with possibility. I got into my Tesla, bought with my own money, unlike Max's collection of imported sports cars, and headed straight to the small office space I'd been secretly renting for months. The sign on the door read Artemis Innovations, named for the goddess of the hunt. Fitting, since I was about to become my brother's worst nightmare, a competitor who knew all his weaknesses. Inside, prototype servers hummed quietly. On the main screen, lines of code represented 2 years of secret development. An AI system so advanced it made Porter Technologies' products look like calculator apps. My phone buzzed again. A message from Max. "Hope you're not too upset, sis. But hey, maybe now you can focus on finding a husband instead of playing with computers all day." I laughed, setting my box of belongings on what would become my new desk. "Oh, Max, you have no idea what's coming." Because while he'd been practicing his golf swing and dating models, I'd been watching, learning, planning. I knew every flaw in Porter Technologies systems, every weakness in their market approach, every client who was unhappy with their outdated technology. More importantly, I knew something they didn't. Porter Technologies' biggest client, Global Dynamics, was about to put their $100 million AI contract up for rebid. And thanks to my careful networking, I had an invitation to submit a proposal. My phone buzzed one more time. My father. "The board approved Max's appointment unanimously. I hope you'll be professional about this." Professional. Like ignoring my contributions had been professional. Like dismissing my achievements had been professional. I opened my laptop, pulling up the business plan I'd been refining for months. The market analysis was clear. Porter Technologies had grown complacent, relying on their reputation rather than innovation. Their clients were hungry for something new, something revolutionary. Something exactly like what I was about to launch. I called James, my former lead researcher. "Remember that thing we discussed? The hypothetical project? You mean a quantum-enhanced AI processing system you definitely weren't developing on your own time?" I smiled. "How would you like to help me make it a reality? Off the record, of course." His response was immediate. "Half the tech division is ready to jump ship. Just say when." When I finally left the office that night, the sun had long since set. But as I drove home, I felt lighter than I had in years, free from the weight of trying to prove myself to people who'd never truly see my worth. My brother thought he'd won today. My father thought he'd made the smart choice, the safe choice, the traditional choice. They had no idea they'd just created their own worst enemy, because sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's becoming the thing they fear most. Competition they never saw coming. 2 years passed like a blur of code, coffee, and sleepless nights. I sat in my new office at Artemis Innovations, watching the sunrise paint the city skyline in shades of gold. My company had grown from a small room with humming servers to 3 floors of prime downtown real estate. More importantly, we'd grown from an idea into Porter Technologies' worst nightmare. Diana? My assistant's voice came through the intercom. The Global Dynamics team is here for the final presentation. I smiled, straightening my blazer. Send them in. The conference room doors opened to reveal Thomas Chen, Global Dynamics Chief Technology Officer, along with his executive team. Their expressions were guarded. They'd been Porter Technologies clients for 15 years. Ms. Porter, Thomas nodded. I have to admit, we were surprised when you requested this meeting. Your brother was quite vocal about your departure from Porter Technologies. I'm sure he was, I replied smoothly. But today isn't about Porter Technologies. It's about showing you the future of AI integration. I gestured to James, now my Chief Technical Officer, who dimmed the lights. The holographic display we developed specifically for this presentation hummed to life, filling the room with streams of data visualizations. Ladies and gentlemen, I began. What you're seeing isn't just a presentation. It's live data from our quantum-enhanced AI system, processing and optimizing your company's operations in real time. Thomas leaned forward, his eyes widening. How did you get our operational data? We didn't, James explained. The system is creating predictive models based on publicly available information about global dynamics. Imagine what it could do with actual access to your systems. For the next hour, we demonstrated capabilities that made Porter Technologies systems look like ancient history. When we finished, the room was silent with awe. Thomas cleared his throat. This is impressive. But Porter Technologies has been our partner for years. Your brother personally assured me that they're developing similar capabilities. I pulled up another display. This is Porter Technologies' current AI architecture. My brother might talk about quantum computing and neural networks, but this is what they're actually running. The Global Dynamics team studied the diagram, their expressions shifting from surprise to concern. They're still using the base system I developed 3 years ago, I continued. No significant upgrades, no real innovation. Just a new user interface to make it look modern. Ms. Porter, Thomas said carefully, our contract with Porter Technologies is up for renewal next month. $100 million commitment. I nodded. I know, that's why I'm offering you something better for half the price. The room erupted in whispers. Thomas held up his hand for silence. Half the price for double the capability? He sounded skeptical. Actually, James chimed in. Our benchmarks show it's closer to 5 times the capability. We could demonstrate. A commotion outside interrupted him. Through the glass walls, I saw a familiar figure storming through the office. Sir, you can't go in there. My assistant called after him. Max burst into the conference room, his face red with rage. What the hell do you think you're doing? I stayed perfectly calm. Having a business meeting. One you weren't invited to. Thomas, Max turned to the Global Dynamics CTO. Whatever she's told you, don't listen. She's just bitter about. About what? I cut in. About being passed over despite my qualifications. About watching you run our father's company on reputation rather than innovation. I turned to Thomas. Would you like to know why Porter Technologies' last 3 system updates were delayed? Max's face paled. Diana, don't. Because they can't replicate my work. They've been trying for 2 years to reverse engineer the improvements I made before leaving, but they can't figure out how I did it. I smiled at my brother. That's what happens when you put ego before expertise. Thomas stood up. Maxwell, is this true? The delays? It's more complicated than that, Max sputtered. We're in a transition phase. Show them, I said to James, who pulled up another display. This is Porter Technologies' stock price since Max took over. Notice the pattern. The downward trend was impossible to miss. Every failed update, every missed deadline, every lost client had taken its toll. That's confidential information, Max shouted. It's public record, I corrected him. Just like the 3 class action lawsuits from dissatisfied clients, the ones you tried to quietly settle. Thomas looked between us, then checked his phone. Your brother's right about one thing, Miss Porter. This meeting wasn't supposed to happen. He paused. It wasn't supposed to happen until next week, after our board reviewed the preliminary proposals. He slid a document across the table, but since we're all here, I picked up the paper, a letter of intent to transfer all of Global Dynamics AI operations to Artemis Innovations, effective immediately. The board voted last night, Thomas continued. Your demonstration just confirmed what we already suspected. Porter Technologies is living in the past. We need a partner focused on the future. Max grabbed the document, his hands shaking. This isn't possible. Our contract has a performance clause, Thomas finished, one you've violated with each delayed update and failed promise. The door opened again. This time, it was my father. What have you done? He demanded, his face ashen. I stood up slowly, savoring the moment. Exactly what you taught me, Dad. I saw an opportunity in the market, and I took it. By stealing our biggest client. No, I corrected him, by offering something better, by innovating while you and Max were busy protecting your boys' club. The room had fallen silent, everyone watching our family drama unfold. I continued, my voice steady. 2 years ago, you said Max understood business. That he understood leadership. Well, guess what? Under his leadership, Porter Technologies has lost market share, talent, and now your biggest client. My father slumped into a chair, looking suddenly old. This will destroy us. No, I said quietly, this might actually save you. I pulled out another document, one I'd been saving for this moment. This is an offer to buy Porter Technologies. The price is fair, considerably above current market value given your recent performance. Max snatched the paper. You want to buy us out? I want to save Dad's legacy, the company he built, that Grandpa built. Because right now, you're running it into the ground. The truth of my words hung heavy in the air. Everyone knew Porter Technologies was struggling. My offer wasn't just a power play, it was a lifeline. The board meets this afternoon. I continued. They'll have my offer, along with detailed documentation of the company's decline under current leadership. I suggest you consider it carefully. Thomas stood up, gathering his team. We'll send over the signed contracts this afternoon, Ms. Porter. Looking forward to our partnership. After they left, the room felt charged with unspoken emotions. My father stared at the buyout offer, his hands trembling slightly. All this time, he said finally, all this planning. I learned from the best, I replied. You always said business was about seeing opportunities others miss. Well, I saw the opportunity you missed, the value you overlooked because you couldn't see past your own prejudices. Max paced the room like a caged animal. The board will never accept this. They already have. I pulled up one final display, emails from board members expressing their support for my takeover bid. Turns out, they're more interested in saving the company than preserving the male line of succession. 3 hours later, I stood in my father's old office, my office now, looking at those same photos of Porter men that had once excluded me. One by one, I took them down, replacing them with images that told a different story. Diverse teams, innovative projects, the future I always envisioned for the company. My phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from clients, employees, and industry leaders. News of the takeover was already making waves in the tech world. A soft knock at the door, James holding a bottle of champagne. The merger documents are signed, he said, grinning. Porter Technologies is officially part of Artemis Innovations. I looked around the office, remembering that day 2 years ago when they dismissed my contributions, my potential, my worth. You know what the best part is? I said, accepting a glass of champagne. They never saw it coming. All those years of underestimating me, of dismissing my little robots and my emotional leadership style. It made them blind to the threat I could become. And now? I smiled, raising my glass. Now they work for me. Well, those who still have jobs. Max had resigned rather than work under my leadership. My father had accepted a position on the board. Advisory only, no real power. It was a courtesy gesture, respect for the legacy he built, even if he hadn't respected mine. That evening, as the sun set over my expanded empire, I received one final message from my mother. who'd watch this drama unfold from the sidelines. Your grandfather would be proud. He always said the future belongs to those who build it, not those who inherit it. I looked out at the city lights, at the offices now filled with people who'd believed in my vision, who'd followed me from Porter Technologies or joined me along the way. People judged by their capabilities, not their gender or family connections. The sign outside now read Artemis Technologies, a merger of the old and the new, tradition and innovation. But everyone knew who really ran things. Not the man of the house, but the woman who built something better. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong. It's building something so magnificent that they have no choice but to admit they were wrong. And as I sat in my new office, surrounded by the empire I'd built from scratch, I knew I'd done exactly that. Because in the end, true leadership isn't about being born into the right family or having the right chromosomes. It's about vision, determination, and the courage to build something new. Even if that means competing with family, even if that means winning, even if that means changing everything they thought they knew about business, about leadership, and about the daughter they'd underestimated for far too long. The future belonged to those who built it, and I had only just begun to build. Hi, I'm David Chin, and this is the story of how I turned from being the family disappointment to the person who saved our entire family's legacy. But let me start from the beginning, because sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one holding all the cards. 7 years ago, I joined Chen Global Technologies, our family's company, as a junior IT technician. While my cousins Michael and Lisa worked in executive offices with floor-to-ceiling windows, I chose to work in the basement, surrounded by servers and the gentle hum of cooling fans. Not that I had much choice, it was the only position my Uncle Robert, the CEO, would offer his underachieving nephew. David, you need to understand, Uncle Robert had said during my initial interview, his voice carrying that familiar disappointed tone I'd heard throughout my childhood. We're only offering you this position because your father insisted. Try not to mess it up. I still remember nodding quietly, accepting the position while my cousins smirked from their corner offices. What they didn't know was that I had already turned down offers from Google and Microsoft. I had my reasons for choosing our family company, reasons that would only become clear years later. The first few years were a study in endurance. While my cousins drove luxury cars and attended executive lunches, I spent my days maintaining our company's digital infrastructure. Every morning, I arrived an hour early to run system diagnostics. Every night, I was the last to leave, ensuring our networks were secure. Still playing with computers, David? Michael would joke whenever we crossed paths in the hallway. When are you going to get a real job like the rest of us? Lisa was no better. Oh, cousin, you should really dress better, she'd say, eyeing my practical clothing with disdain. No wonder Aunt May keeps trying to set you up with girls. No one would date an 8 guy voluntarily. But while they were busy mocking me, I was learning. Every system, every network, every piece of data that flowed through our company passed through my department. I knew every contract, every client relationship, every trade secret. Not because I was snooping. I would never breach that trust. But because I was the one building and maintaining the systems that protected this information. The real turning point came 3 years ago, when I noticed some concerning patterns in our network traffic. Late-night data transfers, unauthorized access attempts, and strange communication patterns with our overseas offices. I spent months quietly investigating, documenting everything, and building stronger security protocols. That's when I received the first email from James Morrison, CEO of Morrison Technologies, our biggest competitor. Mr. Chen, the email read, "Your recent security upgrades to your company's networks have impressed us. Would you be interested in discussing a position with our organization? The compensation would be significant." I declined politely, but kept the email, just like I kept every other offer that came my way over the years. Microsoft, Amazon, Apple. They all reached out eventually. It turns out that quietly revolutionizing a company's cybersecurity infrastructure gets noticed, even if your own family doesn't see it. Then came last week's annual company meeting. I sat in my usual spot at the back of the conference room, laptop open, monitoring our systems as always. The meeting was going as it usually did. Quarterly reports, growth projections, the usual corporate speak, until Michael stood up with his trademark smug smile. "I have an announcement to make," he said, straightening his expensive tie. As head of operations, I've been reviewing our departmental efficiencies. I'm pleased to announce that we'll be outsourcing our aita department to streamline operations. My brother-in-law's company will be taking over all aita functions effective next month. The room erupted in murmurs. I saw Lisa trying to hide her gleeful smile behind her hand. Uncle Robert nodded approvingly from his seat at the head of the table. It's time we modernize, Michael continued, looking directly at me. We can't keep hanging on to outdated solutions just because of family obligations. That's when my laptop pinged, a new email from Morrison Technologies. But this one wasn't a job offer. This one would change everything. I looked up from my screen, a small smile playing on my lips. Before we vote on that proposal, I said quietly, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent room, I think there's something the board needs to see. And that's when I started the presentation that would make our entire family realize exactly who they'd been mocking all these years. The conference room screen flickered to life as I connected my laptop. Michael's confident smirk wavered slightly. He'd never seen me speak up in a meeting before. David. Uncle Robert's voice carried a warning tone. We've already decided. One moment, Uncle, I interrupted softly, pulling up the first email. I received this message from James Morrison 10 minutes ago. I think everyone should hear what our biggest competitor has to say. The room fell silent as I projected the email onto the screen. David, our surveillance indicates that Cheng Global is planning to outsource its aita department. Before you proceed with any transitions, I feel obligated to warn you about Maxwell Solutions, your proposed new aita provider. They've been compromised. The ransomware attack that crippled Stanford Industries last month, that was through Maxwell. There's a security breach waiting to happen. As a professional courtesy, given our past discussions, I wanted you to know. Regards, James Morrison, CEO, Morrison Technologies. Michael's face had lost some of its color. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. You're making this up. Maxwell Solutions has an excellent reputation. I clicked to the next slide, displaying a series of network traces and security logs. These are the attack patterns from the Stanford Industries breach, I explained, my voice remaining calm. And these, I switched to another screen, are the current network patterns from Maxwell Solutions. The signature matches. They're already compromised. Lisa stood up, her designer heels clicking against the floor. This is just David trying to save his job. He's always been jealous of our success. Actually, I interrupted, pulling up another document. I haven't been just anything for quite some time. I displayed a series of emails from tech giants, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all with seven-figure job offers. I've turned down 37 high-level positions in the past 5 years. But that's not important right now. I switched to another screen, showing a complex network diagram. What is important is that over the past 7 years, I've built a proprietary security system that protects not just our data, but our entire business operation. It's why we've never had a successful cyber attack, while our competitors have lost millions to breaches. Uncle Robert leaned forward, his expression changing from dismissive to concerned. What exactly are you saying, David? I took a deep breath. This was the moment I'd been preparing for. 3 things. First, Maxwell Solutions is compromised, and if we outsource to them, we'll lose everything within 6 months. Second, our current security system, the one I built, is worth approximately $300 million on the open market. Morrison Technologies offered to buy it last year. The room erupted in chaos. 300 million? Even Michael looked shocked. And third, I continued, my voice cutting through the noise. I discovered something else while building these systems. Something about what really happened to those missing funds from the pension account 5 years ago. Michael's face went from pale to ghost white. Lisa dropped her phone. Uncle Robert gripped the arms of his chair so hard his knuckles turned white. You see, I continued, pulling up another series of documents. When you build the security systems, you see everything. Every transaction, every deleted email, every hidden account. I never went looking for this information, but as the system administrator, it was my job to protect it. I clicked to the next slide, showing a series of transaction records. 5 years ago, $50 million disappeared from our employee pension fund. The official story was that it was lost in a bad investment. The truth is, and that's when the real bombshells started dropping, one by one, revealing secrets that would tear apart the carefully constructed lies my family had built their success upon. The conference room had gone deathly quiet as I displayed the transaction records on the screen. Every transfer, every hidden account, every falsified document, all meticulously organized and annotated. On March 15, 2019, I continued, my voice steady. Exactly $50 million was transferred from the pension fund through a series of shell companies. The money was eventually split 3 ways. I clicked through the slides. $20 million to an account in the Cayman Islands under the name Chen Ventures. That's you, Michael. $20 million to Lisa Chen International in Switzerland, and $10 million to a holding company controlled by Uncle Robert. Michael jumped to his feet, his expensive suit wrinkled from his tight grip on the conference table. You had no right to access those records. This is corporate espionage. I smiled slightly. Actually, as the head of its security, it was literally my job to monitor and protect all company transactions. Every action I took was within my legal authority and documented accordingly. Uncle Robert raised his hand, attempting to regain control of the situation. David, whatever you think you found, I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. Like the explanation you gave the employees who lost their retirement savings, I interrupted, bringing up the next document, or the explanation you gave the SEC when they investigated. The one where you blamed it all on a non-existent trader named Marcus Williams. Lisa's perfectly manicured nails drummed nervously on the table. What do you want, David? Money? A promotion? Name your price. I shook my head. This isn't about money. It's about responsibility. For 7 years, I've watched you treat this company like your personal piggy bank while hard-working employees lost their life savings. I've watched you mock and belittle everyone you considered beneath you, including me. But most importantly, I've watched you destroy everything Grandfather Chen built. I clicked to the next slide, showing our grandfather's original company mission statement. Grandfather started this company with a vision of technological innovation that would help people. He believed in creating value, not just profit. He believed in taking care of employees, not stealing from them. The room was silent as the weight of their actions finally seemed to sink in. But I wasn't finished. So here's what's going to happen, I said, pulling up a new document. First, the pension fund will be fully restored with interest. I already prepared the transfer documents. Second, all 3 of you will resign from your positions, effective immediately. The board will appoint new leadership based on merit, not family connections. You can't do this, Michael shouted, his face red with rage. You're nothing. Just an 8 guy. I clicked to the final slide, displaying my own stock holdings. Actually, I can. Over the past 7 years, while you were busy buying sports cars and vacation homes with stolen money, I was buying company stock. Every bonus, every raise, every consulting fee I earned on the side, all of it went into building my ownership stake. As of last week, I own 30% of Chen Global Technologies. The color drained from Uncle Robert's face. That's impossible. The family trust controls the majority of shares. The family trust that requires all beneficiaries to be employed by the company, I asked innocently. The same trust that automatically transfers shares to the next largest shareholder if a beneficiary is found guilty of criminal conduct against the company. I let that sink in before delivering the final blow. I've already submitted all evidence of the pension fund theft to the SEC. They're very interested in speaking with all of you. So here are your options. And that's when I laid out the choice that would determine not just their fate, but the future of our entire family legacy. Option 1. I said, opening a folder on my laptop, you resign immediately, return every penny of the stolen money with interest, and accept positions as silent shareholders with no operational control. You'll still receive dividends, but you'll have no say in company decisions. I paused, letting the first option sink in before continuing. Option 2. I send this evidence to the SEC, the FBI, and every major news outlet. The company might survive the scandal, but you 3 definitely won't. Prison time for financial fraud isn't pleasant, especially for former executives. Michael lunged forward, his expensive watch glinting under the fluorescent lights. You ungrateful little. I wouldn't finish that sentence. I interrupted calmly. The company-wide security system I built includes audio and video recording in all conference rooms. Everything that's happened in the last hour is already safely backed up in multiple secure locations. Lisa, always the pragmatist, spoke up. How do we know you won't turn us in any way after we resign? I pulled up another document. Because I've prepared a legal agreement. If you comply with option 1, including full restitution, I'll sign a non-disclosure agreement. The employees get their money back, the company continues under new leadership, and our family's reputation remains intact. Everyone wins. Uncle Robert, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. And if we refuse both options? I clicked to my final slide, a pre-written press release detailing the entire scandal. Then at 5 p.m. today, this goes to every major news outlet. By tomorrow morning, Chen Global Technologies will be the biggest corporate scandal since Enron, and you'll all be facing federal charges. The room fell silent as the weight of their situation sank in. Through the glass walls, I could see employees going about their daily work, unaware that their futures hung in the balance of this moment. Finally, Uncle Robert sighed heavily. You planned this all along, didn't you? Every detail, every move. I shook my head. No, Uncle. I came here 7 years ago, hoping to learn the family business and make you proud. The planning only started when I discovered the theft. Even then, I kept hoping you'd make it right on your own. Michael slumped in his chair, his earlier bravado completely deflated. What about my brother-in-law's company? The outsourcing deal. Already taken care of, I replied. I sent Morrison Technologies warning about Maxwell Solutions to their other clients. They're finished. Your brother-in-law should focus on finding a good lawyer. Lisa's perfectly composed facade finally cracked. All this time, we thought you were just the family failure, the quiet one in the basement. That was your mistake, I said softly. You were so busy looking down on me that you never bothered to look at what I was actually doing. Over the next hour, lawyers were called, documents were signed, and resignations were tendered. By sunset, Chen Global Technologies had a new leadership structure, and $50 million was on its way back to the pension fund. As I sat in my new office, not that I planned to spend much time there, Mom came to see me. Her eyes were red from crying. Did you have to do it this way? She asked quietly. I showed her the pension fund records. They stole the retirement savings of people who work here for decades, Mom. People like Mr. Zhang, who's worked in maintenance since before I was born. Mrs. Liu in accounting, who put 3 kids through college on her salary here. They trusted us. She nodded slowly, understanding but sad. What happens now? I showed her my plans for the company, expanding our technology services, increasing employee benefits, establishing a charitable foundation for technology education. Now we rebuild, not just the company, but our family's reputation. We do it right this time. Over the next year, Chen Global Technologies underwent a transformation. Under new leadership, we doubled our market share and tripled our employee satisfaction ratings. Michael found a position with a small startup, humbled but hopefully wiser. Lisa opened a boutique consulting firm, finally working for her success instead of stealing it. Uncle Robert retired, spending his days trying to rebuild relationships with a family he had nearly destroyed. As for me, I still come to work early and leave late, but now it's because I love what we're building. Our company has returned to Grandfather Chen's original vision, using technology to help people while taking care of our employees. Sometimes, late at night in my office, I look at the old family photos on my wall and feel a twinge of sadness for what we lost. But then I remember the faces of our employees when we announced the return of their pension funds, the tears of joy and relief, and I know I made the right choice. Last week, I received an invitation to speak at a technology conference. The topic? Ethical leadership in the digital age. I accepted with a small smile, already planning my speech. After all, I have quite a story to tell. The company continues to thrive, but more importantly, we've restored our family's honor. Sometimes the quietest person in the room isn't just the smartest. They're the one with the strength to do what's right, no matter the personal cost. They say success is the best revenge, but I've learned that true success isn't about revenge at all. It's about responsibility, to your employees, to your family's legacy, and to yourself. In the end, the Just 8 guy turned out to be exactly who the company needed. And as I write this from my office, watching the sunset over the city, I'm reminded of something Grandfather Chen used to say. Honor in business is not just about making money, but about making a difference. I think he would be proud of what we've become. The company's future is bright, built on a foundation of integrity rather than deception. And that's a legacy worth protecting.